Let's talk about the election for a moment, because you've written recently about Keir Starmer and his, shall we say, slightly left-wing antecedents. He's not the centrist that you see before you.
No, and he's actually been quite frank about this. Some years ago, after he'd become leader of the opposition, he gave an interview to the left-wing New Statesman magazine, and they asked him about his past in editing a magazine called Socialist Alternatives, which is a very, very left-wing magazine. I can describe the details of the politics if you like. And he said, "Yes, I still agree with all that stuff."
Right.
His politics are summed up in the phrase "red-green." That he's extremely radical on the sort of sexual politics line of things, which is why he has such trouble defining a woman.
Right.
And he's also extremely radical on the green dogma, which of course demands that we close down most of our economy,
right.
In the belief that this will save the planet. And those are his two really very strong driving forces. And one has to point out that the economics of this country is in such a terrible state that there's very little he can do which will involve spending. So he is a strongly radical person. And if he becomes prime minister, I think you'll see an awful lot of this sort of red-green fanaticism in government action, and also some very, very severe constitutional change. There's a plan, amazingly undiscussed, which has been written, and it's available. You can get it up on the internet, with Gordon Brown's plan for constitutional change, which will begin with the abolition of the House of Lords and its replacement by some sort of elected Senate, but also will give the Supreme Court, which is, of course, an appointed body largely made up of liberal judges, enormous powers to limit the actions of Parliament. So the old idea that Parliament was sovereign in this country will die if Gordon Brown reforms come into being. And these reforms are very serious, and I think they will be early on. And they go together with the rather spooky plan which Keir has announced to bring in votes at 16.
Yes.
Which it may just sound cynical and cheap, and of course it is cynical and cheap, but it also betokens something much deeper in left-wing Labour that's always been there. And Nye Bevan, the great hero of left-wing Labour in 1945, said they needed to be in power for 25 years to complete their programme, and they needed to destroy the Conservative Party. This is very embarrassing to Clem Attlee, the then leader of the Labour Party, when he said it, but it is the true feelings of many on the Labour left. They don't really believe anybody else should govern.
No. Well, funnily enough, the Conservative Party are doing quite a good job of destroying themselves from within, aren't they, at the moment?
Well, I think the Conservative Party's election campaign so far shows all the signs of being run by the Labour Party. but that is so often the case.
Yeah.
Almost all major organisations end up being controlled by their principal rivals. But we need to ignore that.
Yeah,
There's a fantastically good article in the Daily Telegraph this morning by Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, a French journalist of some distinction, describing how she in 1981, along with a lot of French conservatives, made the terrible mistake of thinking it would be a good idea to punish French conservatives for being so useless by electing Francois Mitterrand as president.
Right.
And they then got the most appalling catalogue of horrible, irreversible change in the country, which nearly ruined it. This is the problem people have now, that an awful lot of people on the right, oh, well, the Tories are so terrible, let's punish them. Frankly, it's like smacking your car on the backside for not starting. The Tories don't care if they lose office. In fact, I would suspect that about 80% of them are longing to get out of Parliament and go away and spend more time with their money. The way if you want to punish the Tories, keep them in office and make them clear up the mess they've left. Well, the idea that you will, if people vote. If people vote Starmer to punish the Tories, they will punish themselves by many, many years ahead of government, which they will come to regret, as Anne-Elisabeth Moutet describes so eloquently in the Telegraph.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. Great to talk to you again, Peter. Lovely to see you. Thank you very much indeed. We'll be back, I'm sure, very soon with more from Peter Hitchens.